Yo, what's going on, boys? How you guys doing today? Welcome back to the Steam 2 video. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the first of the seasonal playlist weapons. Now, I don't feel like a lot of people are paying attention to playlist weapons, but we do have some gems like this pulse rifle today. Because Bungie essentially made a legendary Graviton lance, or as close as we can get to, where it's a 2-burst pulse rifle that also makes some big explosions with tons of ad clear. And with all the void mods we have on the artifact, this thing gets pretty damn close to the Graviton. So today we're going to be taking a look at what are the best perks that you can get on this weapon, what are the perks that you should be going for if you're going for a god roll on this weapon, and we'll also have a mini review at the end where I just tell you what I think of the weapon, the positives, the negatives, and all of that. Funnily enough, this is actually one of my most chased weapons. Considering all the other great weapons that there is, I didn't expect like a playlist weapon to actually be one of the top. But it is, and it's a weapon that I'm really looking forward to getting like the ultimate god roll. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you do, remember to leave a like. So now let's get into it, and the very first thing that we gotta talk about is how to actually get this weapon. And you're gonna be able to get this weapon as a drop from the playlist that is associated with, and also by turning in engrams, and since it's the newest weapon, it also only costs 1 engram to get one of these weapons. So if you get a bunch of engrams, you can actually get so many of these rolls that you'll probably get a good one. Now this weapon is associated with the Crucible, meaning that you're going to have to do Crucible or Crucible related activities like Trials or Iron Banner. Now with the Trials rework coming up and a lot of people that have never gone into Trials actually giving it a try and seeing how the rework is, I think that we're going to see a lot more people with engrams that are going to be able to pick this up. So if you're going to be going into Trials this weekend, you're going to be getting some Crucible XP while you're in there and use those engrams that you get from Shacks to get a couple of these pulse rifles. Now this weapon comes with 2 different origin traits, the first one being One Quiet Moment, and the second one being Nadir Focus. Neither of them are really going to be that useful in PvE, they're mostly PvP perks, and Nadir Focus is usually what you want to go for, since it's going to increase your accuracy and stability as you do damage with the weapon. The weapon does have some pretty decent PvP perks, so you could actually use it there, but I'm definitely more excited about like the PvE side of this weapon. And now let's move on and actually start talking about the perks. And since this is a playlist weapon, and you guys know what the playlist weapon perk pools look like, you already know what I'm about to show you. But this thing has an absolute ton of perks. Come on, just take a look at all the perks that you can actually get on this weapon. It is just an insane amount of perks this weapon can get. But surprisingly, it actually has, for the most part, pretty decent ones. There's actually not really that many bad perks that we have on this weapon. All of them are at least usable, with some of them just being fantastic and allowing us to turn this weapon into the legendary Graviton lance. So today we're definitely not going to be talking about every single perk, we're essentially going to be talking about the best ones in each column. Because I know that's what you guys are looking for anyways, and after we'll talk about the perks, we'll actually give some god roll suggestions, mostly PvE ones, but also a couple of PvP ones. So let's get into it, and let's start talking about the perk 1. So I think we're going to talk about some PvE perks first, and the very first one we're going to start with is Dragonfly, which is essentially the half if you want to go for that Graviton Lance roll. Whenever you get some precision kills, they will create an elemental explosion, helping you do some of that void AoE damage, which is pretty nice. Another really good perk that's going to be for PvE is going to be the classic Repulsor Brace. Defeating a void debuff target will grant you an overshield. And since we have so many good void mods on the artifact, applying debuffs to the void weapon has never been easier, so this is something that you can apply very easily and proc very easily, even without like destabilizing rounds of your weapon. It's actually kind of crazy how good the mods are at supporting void weapons, so all of this season, Repulsor Brace is going to be fantastic, and if you want it to last past this season, Repulsor Brace plus destabilizing rounds are also a combo you can get on this weapon. Now the Militionist and Pugilist are also 2 perks that you can get on this weapon, so if you're either on a grenade build or a melee build, you'll probably find this useful. And the last PvE perk that I want to talk about in this column is going to have to be Rewind Rounds. Now on a primary, Rewind Rounds is not as useful as it is in like a special or a heavy, but I still think that it has some uses, especially since you won't have to reload the weapon as often. But is it going to be as good as some of the other perks that we mentioned before? Probably not. Now when it comes to the Crucible, the 2 big ones that you're going to be looking for are either Closing Time, which is going to give you increased range, accuracy, and handling as your magazine gets lower, or Lone Wolf, which is going to increase your aim assist, your aim down sight speed, and also your airborne effectiveness whenever you are away from your teammates. Now, something that not a lot of weapons have, but this one does, is that you can actually pair up closing time perfectly with some of the perks in the other slot that also basically take advantage of you being less than half of your magazine. But either of these perks are going to be pretty solid in the Crucible and pretty much what you want to go for. Now for the second perk, we're actually going to be starting off with Crucible, just to follow up that closing time. So let's start off with Under Pressure, which is going to give us improved stability and accuracy as our magazine gets lower. And you can already see the synergy with this and closing time. Essentially, you're going to like fully power up your weapon once you get low on your magazine. You're going to have tons of stability, tons of accuracy, as well as having more range and also more handling. Overall, the weapon is going to feel fantastic. Now the downside of this is that you won't really use your full magazine. You'll essentially have to dump a bit of it so you can really take advantage of these perks. Another perk that will also have some synergy with closing time is going to be High Impact Reserves, which means that you're going to get some extra damage on the last couple of shots of your magazine. So you're going to have the extra damage, plus the extra accuracy and range, and the handling. Overall, if you're going to go for closing time, I think it's worth giving both of these perks a bit of a shot and see what you like about it. Now this weapon can also get Desperado in this slot, which is going to drop your DTK by quite a bit. You're going to go from 0.8 to a 0.62, which is quite a big drop. You're actually going to be able to kill things much faster. So if you're looking for something to lower your DTK, Desperado is probably going to be your best bet. And then we have things that just essentially increase the consistency of this weapon in Crucible. Things like Head Seeker that are going to increase your aim assist and also increase your headshot damage whenever you hit a body shot. Or Send Moment, which is going to decrease your recoil as you do damage with the weapon and also give you some flinch resistance. Both of these are going to be fantastic, and if you're trying to just make your weapon feel as good as it can be, these two perks are the ones they're going to be going for. So you actually have quite a bit of choices here in the second slot when it comes to Crucible. And now for PvE, the main two choices you're going to be looking for are going to be these Stabilizing Rounds. These things had an insane glow up this season. They essentially went from being like a okay perk to essentially S tier. Basically replacing the Grafalcon and allowing you to have just a ridiculous amount of just volatile rounds as long as you can keep killing enemies. These Stabilizing Rounds are going to be amazing for giving us a bit more ad clear with the volatile explosions, while at the same time being able to work very well into any sort of build that uses Void or use the seasonal mods. It's definitely going to be a top tier perk, and when you combine these Stabilizing Rounds and Dragonfly, then you're going to be making tons and tons of explosions essentially anytime that you get a headshot. And this is pretty much the role that you want to go for if you want that legendary Graviton experience. This is pretty much going to be like the best thing that we have to replicate it. Another really good perk is going to be 1-for-0. Whenever we hit 3 different targets, we're going to get a big 35% damage buff. This is super easy to proc in PvE, and essentially just makes the weapon hit even harder. 1-for-0 has to be like one of my favorite PvE perks on pretty much anything. When it comes to primary weapons, it usually doesn't matter what you put 1-for-0 on. It's essentially just going to make the weapon immediately better, and it's also the case with this weapon. 1-for-0 pretty much pairs up really well with anything too, so any other perk that you want to pair up with 1-for-0, it's probably going to be pretty decent. I know at the beginning I said I was only going to talk about 2 of them, but there's another 2 that I also want to talk about, and they're kind of similar. The first one is going to be Withering Gaze. This is going to make it so we always have a weaken buff on us, since all we have to do is just aim down sights for 1.5 seconds, and then we'll apply the weaken buff with this weapon. This can definitely be a very useful perk, especially if you don't have any other ways of weakening targets. Then I can definitely see the value of essentially just walking around with unlimited weakens, on-demand weakens, essentially whenever you want them. And the last perk I want to talk about is going to be Demoralize Precision Final Blows, cause nearby targets to become weakened. So you can kind of see the similarities between the 2 perks. They both are going to weaken targets, but the targets that we're weakening are definitely different. With Withering Gaze, you're usually going to be weakening some bigger targets, maybe some bosses. While Demoralize is to add clear even harder. Every time that you get a precision kill, you're just going to be weakening a bunch of targets and making the rest of the targets just easier to kill. And this is going to go so crazy with Firefly. You get a precision kill, you immediately weaken everything, and then the Firefly explosion just destroys whatever got weakened. I can definitely see this being an amazing role, and one that I definitely want to try. I haven't gotten this exact role, but it does seem like this thing is going to go crazy once I actually do get it. And now let's talk about some god rolls, and we gotta begin with the legendary Graviton one, Dragonfly plus Destabilizing Rounds. This is going to be doing lots of ad clear with the volatile explosions, with the firefly explosions. It's going to be taking care of ads very easily. Since we already do some pretty high damage because of the frame this weapon is, it's also going to make killing enemies or getting precision kills fairly easy. Repulsor Blaze plus these stabilizing rounds is also going to be a really good combo. You know, we kind of already know about this combo. It's the most popular Void combo for a reason. But this time around, it actually has some competition because we could get Repulsor Blaze plus demoralizing rounds. It's going to work in a very similar way to Repulsor Destabilizing. Use that instead of spreading volatile rounds, you instead are going to be weakening targets. Now, I don't think this is going to be as good as Repulsor Destabilizing, especially with the huge globe Destabilizing just got. But I definitely think it's a viable option, and if you value weaken more than volatile rounds, maybe you want to go for this option. Then we also have the Weaken Explosions combo with Dragonfly Demoralize. Whenever you get some precision hits, you're just going to be destroying groups of enemies. I'm really looking forward to this one, like I said before. I just cannot wait to actually try this one out. And for the Crucible, Lone Wolf plus Set Seeker, I think that's the one that you want to go for if you want just a lot of consistency. And also pretty much anything with closing time will work out pretty well. Closing time plus Desperado, closing time plus Under Pressure, even closing time plus End Moment, I also think it will be pretty good. So those are the rules that kind of interest me the most when it comes to this pulse rifle. And now I want to hear from you guys, what are the god rules that you're going to be going for on this weapon? Are you thinking of going for this weapon at all? Or is this the first time like you're hearing anyone actually talk about this weapon? You know, I'm just kind of interested in those things in the comments below. So, you know, if you want to just answer one question, if you want to answer all of them, that's really up to you. And now let's actually talk a little about the weapon, and I gotta tell you, I was very surprised with this weapon. I expected this to like maybe be good for Crucible when I first saw it, but I definitely didn't expect it to have as many good PvE roles as this ended up being. I definitely didn't expect it to have some roles that kind of imitate the Graviton Lance. That was actually really crazy, and it kind of seems like a pattern with the weapons this season. That some of the legendary weapons that we have this season essentially have roles that are like lesser versions of the exotic counterparts, like the Arc Machine Gun from the season activity, and the Thunderlord, and this with the Graviton Lance. And I really like that because it opens up the possibility of using like a lesser version of the exotic, but at the same time using a different exotic, and still really enjoying like the reason why you like that exotic. If you get what I mean. Hopefully that's making sense. It's making sense to me, so hopefully it's making sense to you. But overall, I really like this weapon. The only problem that I have with this weapon, and it's not really exclusive to this weapon, is just the amount of perks that it's got. Sure, it has a lot of good ones, but if it had a smaller perk pool, then you'll more likely get the perks that you actually want. I know this is remedied a bit by getting some resets, but asking somebody to get like 4 resets in the Crucible to really have like a good chance at getting like the role that they're looking for, or like the perks that they're looking for, it's a bit of a tough ask for somebody that doesn't play the Crucible like me. But besides that, when it comes to the weapon itself, I pretty much love it, and it's the one that I'm going to be chasing most of the season probably. But anyways, with that, we're going to end today's video. Let me know what you guys think about this weapon in the comments below. If you guys have any thoughts, or you want to share a role that you got on this weapon, just put those in the comments below. And thank you all for watching, thank you all for stopping by. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.